I don't know, dude. He might be dead. I think that was his DMT, like, death dream. But I don't know. It has been so hard not to read ahead, you guys. It's been so difficult. I was like, should I read ahead? Things are getting weird. But I didn't. I have no idea what's going to happen tonight. I'm assuming, well, I don't know. They'll probably be talking. I'm assuming the narrator is changing tonight. Michelle narrated part 4, and then he came up with a lot of theories. Oh, fuck. It's not even book club, you guys. Why did nobody tell me? Oops, that's not it. Now it's book club. Okay. Yeah, I'm hoping they don't find his naked butt dead in the airlock. Ow. Wow. Okay, so yeah, it's been really hard not to read ahead. Part 4 was narrated by Michelle, but I think that's gonna change for part 5, which is called Falling into History. I don't know what that means. Yeah, so it was fucking crazy. Last week was crazy. Part 4 was wild. Everyone hated it, but I kind of liked it. Yeah, I'm getting there, Amarak. No spoilers. No, I'm kidding. What is that? A ticket? It's a receipt for coffee and Frito chilies and cigarettes for my taxes. So, we have landed on Mars. We have created the first settlement on Mars. There are hundreds of people arriving now because, you know, we just gave it all the gas. They're like trying to plant like fucking genetically modified algae on the planet so that it helps with like the fucking atmosphere and the warming of the planet. They're like, let's melt the ice caps and bottle them. They're getting ready. They got the bulldozers out. They're just charging full steam ahead with like no you know, pretty much everybody wants to do it, so there has been little dispute. That was like part 1 through 3. And then part 4 was narrated by the First 100's group psychologist. His name is Michel Duval. He's from France. And he's totally losing it. Like, it turned into like Slaughterhouse-5 for a minute, but he's just like, oh, I miss France so much. Mars is disgusting. Why did I come here? I don't care about any of these people. And they're like, you're our psychologist. Are we healthy? And he's like, I didn't hear anything you said. I was looking at Maya's tits. And then he's literally just like depressed. He's like got all these crazy theories about like how everybody's like he's got like archetypes for everybody, and he's like he like thinks he's a computer program and like everyone else is like a computer program and they're all like running their lines. And then he like fucking blacks out half the time. He doesn't remember how he gets places. He just like goes on autopilot. And he's like, oh, maybe I should talk to somebody. And then he gets woken up in the middle of the night by some like dreadlocked guy who turns out to be, who claims to be the Stowaway. Which the Stowaway was mentioned all the way back in part 1. Part 2. Part 1 was really short. But part 2 mentioned Sort of near the end of part 2, Maya thought that she saw a face, like, on the spaceship before they got to Mars, and she thought she saw a face she didn't recognize. And there's only 100 people on the ship, so she's like, I know a face that I haven't recognized, because there's only 100 people here, not including myself, so 99. There's only 99 people here, and that was not one of them. So she's really freaked out. She thinks she's got space madness, and she's like, there's no way. Like, how would they even survive? There was, like, a radiation storm that they all had to hide from, and, like, anybody who was out on the ship when that storm hit would literally have died. So that she's like, it makes no sense. How would they eat? How would they, like, sleep? Like, where are they? How would they get on board? She's like, that's too crazy, unless it's a conspiracy. But that was, like, she's like, that's crazy, though. So then that was never mentioned again, and until Michel, who is literally losing his goddamn mind, he gets woken up in the middle of the night by, he describes it as someone with dreadlocks, like a dark figure of a man, and he, like, takes him by the hand, and, like, he's like, come with me, Michel. So they go out into the fucking farm, which is not suitable for humans. Humans cannot live, that's how John dies at the end of the book. He gets his ass beaten, and he gets dragged out into the farm where, like, I can't remember, like, it's not like an oxygen atmosphere, because, you know, plants don't need that much oxygen, so it's, like, really nitrogen rich, and, like, got a bunch of CO2 in there, is not fit for human lungs, and he's like, this stowaway is taking me into the farm greenhouse area, and but then when he gets in there, he can breathe. And then all these naked little children run up, and they're, like, giggling and, like, laughing and, like, skipping through the farm. And they're like, woo, let's go. So he, like, keeps following everybody. And he's like, oh, I'm not dead, so this is real. And then all the farm people that are on Mars, like, in the first encampment, there's, like, a farm team. And, like, the bio teams, they're all there, and they're all sitting in a circle, and they're naked, and they're, like, chanting or some shit, and then Hiroko is apparently a fucking sex goddess cult leader, and she's, like, dancing around and, like, chanting, and she's naked, and Michelle's like, damn, I really needed this in my life. I miss France a little less now. And then apparently I was always like, Hiroko's, like, growing mushrooms in the bubble dome, but it turns out she really was growing mushrooms in the bubble dome, because she hands him, like, dirt. They all could get handfuls of dirt, and they start eating the dirt, and then they have an orgy. And that is where part 4 ended. In Hiroko's dirt harem. So all that shit they were saying about Hiroko, they were always gossiping about Hiroko, like, trying to have a baby with all of the males on board, and that she's building a male harem so that Mars will be populated by her vagina. And Maya was like, wow, that's so racist. They're just saying that because she's the only Asian. But turns out it's not racist. It's fucking true. But I don't know. So that's just, I don't know what the fuck is happening anymore. And I don't know what's going to happen next. And I don't know who our narrator is going to be. And that's the summary this week. And Elma, thank you for $5. More like a Sharam, right? Oh yeah, and so there's a lot going on. But I don't know if I should, so there's, do we take all this at face value? Or did Michel just, like, fucking fully have a psychotic break, and he just walked out into the farm in the middle of the night while having psychotic hallucinations, and then they're gonna find him, like, butt naked in the dirt tomorrow? I don't know. Because he's all obsessed with Maya, and then I was like, oh wow, the stowaway's real, and then I'm like, wait, no, that's probably the only thing he ever paid attention to is like what Maya says. So like he could have just heard that from Maya and then made up this hallucination dream. Anyways, fun. Ass up, died doing what he loves, eating dirt. Oh my god, Skate Punk, you scared me. I was gonna say, we haven't learned anything yet. But Quib might be right. Don't start a space harem. Or do. I don't know. We don't know yet. I don't know. I'm getting kind of a do it vibe, you know? Oh, yeah. So wait, if that is true, they were all like, oh, we're a secret society. Welcome to the Illuminati on Mars. And we need you, Michelle. We need your beautiful mind. We're about to fuck off part? Wait, what? Oh yeah, and they're leaving. They're leaving soon. They're like, we're gonna go settle down in the South. There's like a whole thing in the South. They're like, we gotta go to the South. That's where our people are. Because now there's more people on Mars, and they have different settlements now. And so they're gonna leave the original settlement in the north and head to the south in secret. And they need Michelle to come along. Alright, sorry, I'm trying to get my smoke on before I start. But we will be starting shortly. And there's space gondolin. Weed is bad for your brain and lowers your IQ. Oh no. Oh no. Ooh. It's okay, I was too smart anyways. Things are better now. Why'd you stop reading when it was getting good? Part 4 ended. That was part 4. I read them in like segments so that they're manageable. Leave it on a, like, it's a natural break. Part, oh my god, I'm gonna like rip the book in half. It's so old. Part 5. Falling into history. Oh god. More italics. Wait, are we like halfway through the book? I think we're almost halfway. Like actually, like, or like, okay, a little bit more. More like somewhere in here. Probably like halfway. Falling into history. See, it's all... You actually can't see. It's all in italics. The lab hummed quietly. The lab hummed quietly. Desks and tables and benches were cluttered with things. The white walls crowded with graphs and posters and cut-out cartoons, all vibrating slightly under the bright artificial light. No, it's not a first edition. Apparently there's some minor changes as well to the copies. Some like editing on some of the science, like some of the science fiction was edited to be more accurate in this copy. And they changed one tiny little sentence too. One tiny little sentence that totally would have blew the lid off of the Michelle chapter. And someone in chat told me about it before I read part 4. And they were like, oh, that's weird. Maya says something different in my copy. And I think theirs was based on the original, or it was an original copy. Because they were like, oh, Maya says this. And it was something like, she's complaining about like her love triangle problems to Nadia. And she was like, oh, I need somebody to talk to, Nadia, so it has to be you. I tried to talk to Michelle, but he always just looks at me like he wants to lick my skin or eat my skin or something like that. And when Purple Wayne told me about it, and I was like, that is wild, because Michelle is not mentioned, really, aside from the very, like, beginning of part 2. So in my copy, Maya just says, oh, Nadia, you're the best one to talk to. But she doesn't say anything about Michelle in my copy, so I was not expecting Michelle to be, like, having a full-on mental health crisis. I was using an older edition, and then I realized the one Laurie is reading from is newer. Then I switched to another copy, and it's different from both. LOL. Wow. Books are cool that way. What do you use for a bookmark? A fucking receipt from a fucking Speedway. I need to throw it away because I'm like about to dox myself or something. It's gonna have like a fucking address on it. Desks and benches were cluttered with things, the white walls crowded with graphs and posters and cut-out cartoons, all vibrating slightly under bright artificial light. Like any lab anywhere. Like any lab anywhere. Somewhat clean, somewhat disorderly. The one window in the corner was black and reflected the interior. It was night outside. The whole building was nearly empty. But 2 men in lab coats stood at one of the benches, leaning forward to look at a computer screen. The shorter of the 2 tapped at the keyboard below the screen with a forefinger, and the image on the screen changed. Green corkscrews on a black field, squiggling so they looked sharply 3-dimensional, as if the screen were a box. I can't imagine this. Green corkscrews on a black field, squiggling so that they looked sharply three-dimensional, as if the screen were a box. An image from an electron microscope. The field was only a few microns across. You see, it's a kind of plasmid repair of the gene sequence, the short scientist said. Breaks in the original strands are identified. Replacement sequences are synthesized, and when these replacement sequences are introduced into the cell, the breaks are seen as attachment sites, and the replacements bind to the originals. Do you introduce them by transformation? Electroportation? Transformation. Treated cells are injected along with a competent... Oh my. Okay, transformation. Treated cells are injected along with a competent, and the repair strands make a conjugal transfer. In vivo? In vivo. A low whistle. So you can repair any little thing? Cell division error? That's right. The two men stared at the corkscrews on the screen, waving about like the new tips of grapevines in a breeze. You've got proof? Oh shit. Did Vlad show you those mice in the next room? Yeah. Those mice are 15 years old. Another whistle. They went next door into the mice room, muttering to each other under the hum of machinery. The tall one stared curiously into a cage, where patches of fur breathed under wood chips. When they left again, they turned out the lights in both rooms. The flicker of the electron microscope screen illuminated the first lab, giving it a green cast. The scientists went to the window, talking in low voices. They looked out. The sky was purple with the coming day. The stars were popping out of existence. Out on the horizon stood a black, massive bulk, the flat-topped mound of an immense volcano. Olympus Mons, the largest mountain in the solar system. The tall scientist shook his head. This changes everything, you know. I know. Alright, that was the prelude to part 5. Falling into history. My Bible has a built-in bookmark. Yeah, they all do that. Are they creating super intelligent mice to displace the colonists and take over the planet? That's the impression I'm getting, yes. Omicron Theta, hey, by the way, thank you for 40 months. From the bottom of the shaft, the sky looked like a bright pink coin. The shaft was round, a kilometer in diameter, 7 kilometers deep. But from the bottom it seemed much thinner and deeper than that. Perspective plays a lot of tricks on the human eyes. On the human eye. Such as that bird flying down the round pink dot of the sky, looking so big. Except it wasn't a bird. "Hey," John said. The shaft director, a round-faced Japanese named Etsu Okakura, got it. All right, that's how we're saying it. The shaft director, a round-faced Japanese named Etsu Okakura, god damn it, looked at him. And through their 2 faceplates, John could see the man's nervous grin. One of his teeth was discolored. Okakura looked up. "Something falling," he said quickly, and then, "Run." They turned and ran over the shaft door. They turned and ran over the shaft floor. Quickly, John found that although most of the loose rock had been swept off the starred black basalt, no effort had been made to make the shaft bottom perfectly level. Oh, anyways, sorry, cat noises. John is narrating this part. Oh my god, we get a John chapter. What a blessing. I wonder what he thinks of Maya. Oh my god, we're gonna hear John's side of the story now. Oh shit. I also have squirrels in my wall. Something's falling. They turned and ran over the shaft floor. Quickly, John found that although most of the loose rock had been swept off the starred black basalt, no effort had been made to make the shaft bottom perfectly level. Miniature craters and scarps became increasingly difficult as he gained speed. In this moment of primate flight, the instincts formed in childhood reasserted themselves. And he kept pushing off too hard with each step, coming down on uninspected terrain with a jolt, and then pushing off wildly again, a crazy run, until finally he caught his toe and lost control, and fell crashing across the rugged stone, arms flung out to save his faceplate, just like on Earth. Okay, but no, he's running in a lower gravity than Earth. They tripped. Arms flung out to save his faceplate. It was a small comfort to see that Okakura had fallen as well. Fortunately, the same gravity that caused their tumbles was giving them more time to escape. The falling object had not yet landed. They got up and ran again. And once again, Okakura fell. John glanced back and saw a bright metallic blur hit the rock. And then the sound of the impact was a solid whump. Whump. Like a blow. Silver bits splashed away, some in their direction. He stopped running, scanned the air for incoming ejecta. No sound at all. A big hydraulic cylinder flew out of the air and banged end over end to their left. And they both jumped. He hadn't seen it coming. After that, stillness. They stood nearly a minute, and then Boone stirred. He was sweating. They were in pressurized suits, but at 49 degrees Celsius. 49 degrees Celsius. The shaft bottom was the hottest place on Mars, and the suit's insulation was built for cold. He made a move to help Okakura to his feet, but stopped himself. Presumably, the man would rather get up himself than owe Geary to Boone for the help. If Boone understood the concept properly. "Let's have a look," he said instead. "Let's have a look," he said instead. Okakura got up, and they walked back over the dense black basalt. The shaft had long ago been bored into solid bedrock. In fact, it was now about 20% of the way through the lithosphere. Lithosphere? I don't even know what that is. Had long ago been bored into solid bedrock, and in fact was now about 20% of the way through the lithosphere. It was stifling at the bottom, as if the suits were entirely uninsulated. Lithos equals rock. Ah, wow. Lith as in monolith. Right. Thank you. It was stifling at the bottom, as if the suits were entirely uninsulated. Boone's air supply was a welcome coolness in the face and lungs. Framed by the dark shaft walls, the pink sky above was very bright. Sunlight illuminated a short conic section of the shaft wall. In midsummer, the sun might shine all the way. No, they were south of the Tropic of Capricorn. In shadow forever down here. They approached the wreck. It had been a robot dump truck, hauling rock up the road that cut a spiral into the shaft. Cut a spiral into the shaft wall. It had been hauling rock up the road that cut a spiral into the shaft wall. Pieces of the truck were mixed with big, rough boulders, some scattered as much as 100 meters from the point of impact. Beyond 100 meters, debris was rare. The cylinder that had flown by them must have been fired out under pressure of some kind. A pile of magnesium, aluminum, and steel, all twisted horribly. The magnesium and aluminum had partially melted. "Do you think it fell all the way from the top?" Boone asked. Okakura didn't respond. Boone glanced at him. The man was studiously avoiding his gaze. Perhaps he was frightened. Boone said, "There must have been a good 30 seconds between the time I caught sight of it and when it hit. At roughly 3 meters per square, at roughly 3 meters per second squared, that had been more than enough time for it to reach terminal velocity. So, it had hit at about 200 kilometers per hour. Not so bad, really. On Earth, it would have come down in less than half the time and might have caught them. Hell, if he hadn't have looked up when he had, this one might have caught them. He made a quick calculation. It had probably been about halfway up the shaft when he saw it. But at that point, it could have been falling for quite some time. Boone slowly walked around into the gap between the shaft wall and the pile of scrap. The truck had landed on its right side, and the left side was deformed but recognizable. Okakura climbed several steps up to the wreckage, then pointed at a black area behind the left front tire. John followed him up, scraped at the metal with the claw on his right glove's forefinger. The black came away like soot. Ammonium nitrate explosion. The body of the truck was bent in there, as if hammered. A good-sized charge, John observed. Yes, Okakura said, and cleared his throat. He was frightened, that was sure. Well, the first man on Mars had almost been killed while in his care. And himself, too, of course. But who knew which would scare him more? Enough to push truck off-road. Well, like I said, there's been some sabotage reported. Okakura was frowning through his Okakura was frowning through his faceplate. But who and why? I don't know. Anyone in your team seem to be having any psychological difficulties? No. Okakura's face was carefully blank. Every group larger than 5 had someone experiencing difficulties. And Okakura's little industrial town had a population of 500. This is the 6th case I've seen. This is the 6th case I've seen. I cannot say 6th. 6th. This is the 6th case I've seen, John said. Although none so close up. He laughed. The image of the bird-like dot in the black, He laughed. The image of the bird-like dot in the pink sky came back to him. It would have been easy for someone to attach a bomb to a truck before it came down. Detonate it with a clock or an altimeter. Reds, you mean? Okakura was looking relieved. Reds, oh shit. We have heard of them, but it is... He shrugged. Crazy. Yes. John climbed gingerly off the wreck. They walked back across the floor to the shaft. Sorry. Like I said, I haven't read ahead, so I'm gonna stumble a bit. He shrugged. Crazy. We have heard of them, but it is crazy. Yes. John climbed gingerly off the wreck. They walked back across the floor of the shaft to the car they had come down in. Okakura was on another band, talking to people up top. John stopped. Okay, wait. I have to pee. I've been waiting for a good moment. I'll be right back. Thank you for listening.